Hi, everyone. My name is Gunjan, and with me, I have Neil. Hi, Neil. How are you?
Yeah, doing
Cheers.
well.
Enjoying
Cheers.
the summer?
Very much so.
So, we are in June 2020 at the moment, which is the month of diversity. It's the month that we celebrate inclusion, diversity,
Right.
caste, color, creed, sexual orientation, you name it, right? All
Yep.
those different aspects of
Yep.
diversity.
The more diverse, the better.
The more diverse, the better. So, what I wanted to ask you is what does diversity mean on data projects in field of data in general, in your experience?
Well, first of all, I have to point out that I'm not somebody who's representative of diverse population. So I think it would be terrible for me to kind of claim any kind of diversity in my own. So my role is really to bring it out. I think from other people as much as possible and support it as much as possible.
Hmm.
And I say that not as some act of moral goodness or whatever you want to call it. I actually believe that diversity is something that gives you a massive competitive advantage. So
Right,
even if you're somebody who's entirely selfish and doesn't care about all this goodwill and whatnot, and you're that type of person, I will just appeal to your sense of wanting to win.
right,
If you want to win, diversity wins. And the reason why diversity wins is it brings in different perspectives.
right,
And you don't have to be a genius if you have a lot of different perspectives.
right.
Now, there's another word, inclusion, that comes up as well. And the difference is the diversity is kind of the statistical side. So,
Hmm.
you might have a room, just an example, somebody, a person of color, different sexual orientation,
Right,
different age, you name it. But until you can draw those people out and make them give those people the confidence to speak their mind, then you don't have the inclusion piece. So you,
right,
you need to have the inclusion piece in order for the
right.
diversity piece to be effective. And
Very
so
true.
my role when I'm working with people, I never want to make somebody feel that they shouldn't speak up because they don't feel part of the team or like that. And I'll try to invite people who might feel that they're being passed up for these
Right,
reasons of being a minority to things like maybe I'm going to a seminar or some kind of maybe going out for lunch or something like that. So I think it's from my point of view and other people who are in, I guess, a less diverse body, um, I would encourage them to think in those
yeah.
terms.
And I think you and I have worked together before, and we were both consultants for a common client when we worked together. One thing that I've realized over time is being a consultant is actually a boon because you work with such a diverse group of people and you're not bogged down by where I sit in that hierarchy or in that particular culture. The whole value proposition of a consultant is to bring in the other aspects to that particular company, the other ideas that may not exist in their culture, in their organization today, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about fresh ideas. I mean, if we look at just some history, I mean, first of all of history, you can see diversity as leading to
Right,
this kind of invention, evolution. But one thing in particular I want to point out is, if you look at the history of Charles Darwin,
right,
this is a person who was not, in my view, a genius. He was not Albert Einstein. He was not Leonardo da Vinci. He was actually just a guy who was sort of a bug collector, a beetle collector, kind of, yeah, it was like had a basic curiosity
yeah,
about these things. But what the reason why he was able to write Origin of the Species and not whoever is that he had exposed to this diversity of nature. And so
right,
he basically was on this ship for I think almost 3 years with
yeah,
the Royal British Navy, and he sailed all around the world and went to obviously Galapagos Island. People know that, but he was also in Africa and obviously Europe and pretty much the whole world. And it was through all these observations that he was able to see these things. It was the diversity that allowed him to clue onto these things.
right,
And it's the same kind of diversity that I think can create emergent genius. Because again, when you put all these ideas together and they collide, boom! This is where it happens. I've been
right,
reading this this fascinating book called The Horse, the Wheel, and Language. And it's about part of it gets into the invention of the wheel. And before that,
Mm-hmm.
you had this sledge thing where people would just pull these heavy weights. And the wheel, I
Right.
think, was invented somewhere between 4,000 and 3,500 BCE. We take it for granted now. It's almost just like, oh, they don't want to reinvent the wheel. There was like it actually is more complicated than people realize. There's
Right.
the axle, getting it the right length, the right thickness, all these things. There was a lot
Yeah.
of experimentation. And this thing was invented in Mesopotamia in these urban centers because you had that diversity
Right.
that where people could sort of experiment and see somebody else's design and then riff off of
Yeah.
that. And then eventually you get to the point where it's like, oh, this thing works pretty
Yeah.
well. And
Well, no one person can deliver it all, right? You need an engineer, you need a craftsman, you need someone who can design the thing, someone strategically putting that team together. That's
yeah,
how you deliver transformations. That's how you deliver data projects.
yeah, absolutely. And it's being able to sort of say, oh, I see this person has done this thing over here. It's
Right.
very similar to kind of what I've been trying to do, and I've been trying to
Yeah.
figure it out. They've already thought about it. And again, that diversity
Exactly.
is that power that's generating that sort of emergent genius, as I would call it.
Right. That's amazing. So if you were to lose diversity on a particular project, what would be the impact, do you think, to that project?
Well, there's kind of two things I don't like about non-diverse groups. So the first is you get a groupthink effect.
Right.
And I think the second is you can kind of fall into a juvenile culture at some level, for lack of a better term. So, you can get into this kind of type of teasing that is, borderline between affectionate and passive aggressive,
Right.
that I think people would be more comfortable to do within a certain identity group. And so then even other people in that group might start to feel like, oh, it's like high school again, isn't it? And
Right.
there's
Right.
popular people and I'm not popular.
So it
And then
becomes
that,
us versus them, but without saying so.
yeah, so even people who are in the so-called in group might even feel less
Right.
confident about speaking up. Whereas I think with diversity, there isn't that obvious in group. And so everyone feels, again, the inclusion part is necessary for people to feel included. When they feel included, then they're going to speak up, and then you can draw out those good ideas. You can
Right.
draw out that good thinking, but it's hard to draw that out when you have this club culture going on.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for sharing that. And
No problem.
here's us celebrating by being indoors our cheers again, our
Yeah,
Pride Month, and look forward
absolutely.
to having more conversations on Data Project Series.
Sure, me too. Okay,
Thank you so
till
much,
next
Neil.
time. Thank
See
you.
ya.
Bye bye.